The following is a Podbeard production.
Sharing the stories of the tortured and the haunted. You are listening to Creep or Sleep.
Good evening, you ghoulish fiends, and welcome back to another episode of Creep or Sleep. This is your host, the Goon, and tonight we are going to be reading a story from Reddit user ChrisBird93 entitled, I participated in a show where no one was allowed to sleep. Now this one is a three-parter, so stay tuned to future weeks for the whole shebang. It was a friend of mine who had introduced me to the show. He'd seen my attempt to stay up for 100 hours on YouTube and a video of mine that had seen moderate success, considering the size of my channel, and sent me a link to sign up online with the message. This seems like something you'd like. At that point, my life changed. Now I'm lying in a hospital with some of the very same people in the story in the adjacent beds. I've decided to document what happened to us, as they've helped me to fill in any blanks from the bits when I wasn't around. So, this is it. My friend had been right. The website displayed a grand villa in the southwest countryside, complete with an infinity pool that looked to spill directly into some unknown bay. A short walk down from the house. A huge living area contained two large white corner sofas that looked in at each other, and several dark oak coffee tables spotted the space between them. A wall of glass looked out to the pool, the bay, and beyond. The lounge area was joined to an open-plan kitchen, and then stairs led up to bedrooms, bathrooms, and a door, marked with a picture of a tent. The house was the destination for a new show, 40 Winks. The premise was fairly simple. 8 participants all enter the villa to compete for a cash prize of £5,000. The winner was to be either the last person left awake, or, assuming there were at least 2 participants remaining, the cash would be split between whoever was left after 7 days. The cash was only a small incentive for me. If the show did well, I'd hope it could propel my popularity and help me to get some sort of semi-celebrity status. I thanked my friend and filled out the form on the website to apply for the show, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. They got back to me within the hour, and I was given the upcoming Thursday as a date for an interview. I tried my best to research the company behind the show, Ahisma, but my attempts were fruitless. In the end, I figured they were just a startup and this show would be their first. Based on the prize fund, they had a pretty limited budget. They'd probably just rent the house for the week. My interview went by with no problems. I was witty, funny, and I'm pretty good looking. Although neither of us could deny the most important factor, I had a viewer base that would transfer over to them if I participated. I signed the forms without bothering to read them, and the guy interviewing me gave me the brief document anyway. There will be 8 participants, he said, 4 guys and 4 girls, all about the same age as you. I nodded passively, hiding my eagerness to share a week in a luxury villa with some girls. Beyond this form, I have to tell you there are 5 main rules. He pulled the documents I'd signed back over to the side of his desk and flipped back a couple of pages. Then he grabbed a recorder from his pocket, clicked it on, and sat it on the table. He prefaced the speech with, "Liam Williams, recording of terms and conditions," and then began. "Firstly, you must always wear the microphones. They are waterproof, so do not remove them in any instance. Secondly, you will be watched and listened to at all times. Cameras are installed in every room except for the bathrooms. Anything you say or do will be recorded and may be televised. Thirdly, physical violence is unacceptable in any circumstance. Fourthly, you will be given an individual safe word for use only if you want to leave the show. Before using your safe word, we recommend coming to the den where doctors and psychiatrists will be able to help. Lastly, do not leave the premises. If any of these rules are broken, you will be immediately removed from the show and you will not receive any form of payment. Do you understand all of these terms? I understand, I complied. Great, he smiled, turning off the recorder. If you're happy to proceed, the show begins a month tomorrow. We'll be in contact regarding all necessary correspondence. It was a pleasure to meet you. He smiled and extended his hand and said our goodbyes. I was buzzing with excitement. Ironically, I didn't sleep particularly well for that entire month, as every day brought me closer to what I had convinced myself would be an incredible week. Other than clothes and prescription drugs, we were allowed to bring one item with us with no strings attached. I opted for a 24-pack of Red Bull, but I was only allowed to take 10 of them in. I figured one every 10 hours would get me 4 days in, no problem. Day 1, stock count, 10 Red Bull. They staggered our arrival into the villa so that we could each be greeted one at a time. Our bags had already been assigned to and placed into our rooms. I was the second to enter the villa and met Jessie, a sweet little fireball with hair that twisted over her left shoulder. Her hands were little fists hidden in the sleeves of an oversized gray jumper when I entered, and she leaned on the tiptoes when we shared a hug and said hello. I'd barely had time to learn that she was a student studying marine biology when the door opened again. This was Lucy. She was tall, blonde, and reasonably good-looking, despite being gangly and somewhat awkward. She was nice, though, and it was her idea to open the welcome champagne left on one of the oak tables. Lucy was the party girl. From that point on, whenever someone would enter, we would all raise our glasses and cheer before making our introductions. Curtis was a muscled-up, chiseled jawline without a personality, but Lucy blushed and cooed over him anyway. Annie and Adam came in together as a couple, and that just left Jules and Oscar, two nice enough characters who were just here to have a good time and maybe leave 5,000 pounds richer. A tablet was our only source of communication with the people running the show. It had been all but ignored so far, sitting on one of the oak tables with 8 small wooden boxes surrounding it. After a few minutes of us all being in the lounge, it buzzed for our attention. Curtis nominated himself without consultation, picked up the tablet, and read it aloud. "Welcome, everyone, to the Villa of No Sleep," he read from the screen, and we all cheered. "Now that you're all starting to get settled in, it's time you all get to know each other a little better. Inside these boxes are notes that represent each of your special items. In the order we give you, you will each take it in turns to pick a box. You can then choose to either stick with the item in that box or pick a different one and keep that item. You can only change boxes once, and you are not allowed to trade your items. Jessie, it's your turn first." We all sat down and huddled around the coffee table, filled with nervous anticipation. Jessie picked up the box nearest to her, and she pulled out a folded piece of paper from the box. "Curtis box," she said, and then puffed a little laugh as it escaped her lips. Jessie looked at him as she read, 12 ribbed condoms. We erupted into laughter, and Curtis went bright red, although I think we all knew that he loved the attention. This is, well, who he was. "Definitely a switch," Jessie laughed, putting the box back down. She picked up another which contained my Red Bull. I sucked air through my teeth. Fair enough, I said, somewhat disappointed. It was Oscar to choose next. He'd been pretty quiet so far and was equally as dull with the boxes, picking out his own the first time, which was a book he was currently reading. By the end, none of us except for Oscar had our own items. Annie had the condoms, I had Adam's glucose tablets, Curtis had Annie's cards, Adam had Lucy's rum. You get the idea. We spent all night occupying ourselves with simply getting to know each other. Adam and Annie snuck upstairs at one point, but other than that, it was pretty uneventful. By about 5 a.m., myself and Jesse were by the edge of the pool looking out between the trees and into the sea, waiting for the sun to rise. I wouldn't worry about it too much, I was saying. They're not going to let it get too out of hand. It kind of scares me too, but if you do feel like something really bad is going to happen, you can always just, sleep, you know? Yeah, I guess you're right, she agreed. She pushed off from the edge of the pool and stared up at the sky. I guess we'll just have to enjoy ourselves before we all get too messed up, she said indifferently. I am right, I said, turning to face her. I remember how she looked so angelic, basking in the yellow light spilling through the glass wall behind her. Day 2, stock count, 14 glucose tablets. We got to 8 in the morning and the sun was officially up. I took a glucose tablet with some cornflakes for my breakfast. All of the tea and coffee was decaffeinated. Adam had promised us we'd get through tonight together by getting through the rum, and we all agreed then it was a fantastic idea. I felt fine, a little tired, but the first 21 hours had flown by and I was feeling relatively perky. Oscar had spent a majority of the night on the sofa reading his book. Unfortunately for him, I could see he was going to be finished sometime soon, and he might actually have to join us. At about midday, Jessie ran up to me, bursting with excitement. She grabbed my hand and led me upstairs to the room with the picture of a tent on the door, the den. We went inside and she locked the door behind us and then proceeded to sit in the chair in front of the camera and tap on the armrest for me to join her. I obeyed. "Hello, Jessie. Hello, Liam," said a female voice. "I choose Liam," Jessie announced. "You choose me?" I asked, pointing to myself. "Liam," the voice started, retaking my attention. "Jessie has been set a secret task by the den to choose a partner in crime. Together, you must both come up with a plan to rile up a fellow housemate and then pin the event on someone else. Liam, do you feel up to the challenge?" I laughed mischievously. "Yes," I said. "You must come up the ruse by yourselves. What you do is up to you. Goodbye." We left the den and giggled all the way down the stairs. We schemed in the pool, and the idea came to me easily. We were going to hide Oscar's book. Once it was evening, Jessie would tell him she had seen Curtis with it earlier that day. Then we'd sneakily place it under the sofa, but we'd already torn off the back pages. It was evil, and we loved it. We spent the whole day eyeing up the book Oscar was so close to. Meanwhile, Adam, Annie, Curtis, and Lucy had been spending the day flipping between playing Would You Rather and cards. We finally grasped at the opportunity to hide the book when Oscar went up to the den. This is when it all started to go so very, very wrong. I'm feeling a bit tired from this. I think I'll update with everything else that happened very soon. I almost never want to repeat what happened in that villa.
So, there you have it. I was on a show that wouldn't allow you to sleep by Reddit user ChrisBird93. Now, you may recognize that name from an earlier episode. He had some haunting tales about aging ever so quickly. Well, stay tuned for next week for part 2 from this haunting tale when things get a little more scary. And be sure that you also are listening to all the other Podbeard shows on the Podbeard Network. And email us at creeporsleep@gmail.com if you have a scary story that you would like told on the show. You may just be next.